Are you ready, sister? All right, here we go. Now hold her neck up.
I love you.
Hello and welcome to I Am Not Your Tour Guide, but I am your host, Katie Skelton. This is a podcast where travelers can become storytellers. And we, the listeners, can learn something that can better help us or inspire us on our future ventures. So today I'm super pumped, like I'm really excited. Our next guest is not only my friend, but she is also my family. She is my sister-in-law, so we share the same last name, Katie Skelton. Hey, Katie.
I'm so excited. I feel like kind of like a hotshot that I get asked to be interviewed by you, so I'm like a little nervous.
Well, you should feel like a hotshot because, I am rather picky in my friends and who I enjoy talking to. But thank you for coming on and talking to me because you have a story. You've had quite the life.
So far.
Yeah, so far. So when we first met, Let's do a little throwback. It's a Monday, but let's have a throwback.
All right,
when we met, you were living in Valdosta, Georgia, the state, not the country, and you had on little Ugg boots. I'm gonna say it. Little Ugg boots and your little white tank top and your little shorts, and you were all about my brother. And I'm like, who is this girl? I was like, I'm not really sure, but. Oh my gosh, since then, your life has just kind of taken you everywhere. I mean, you and my brother did become a thing, and you two have one of the best relationships I've honestly ever seen. Your communication skills are fire. So since then, since I have met you, where has life taken you?
Oh, okay. So Ryan and I met in 2008, and then we graduated in 2011. So he graduated first and then I graduated in December. So while I was finishing up my teaching program, he stayed in Valdosta and was working. And then when we graduated, neither of us were ready to start working full time. So we were like, okay, well, let's just travel. We got a bunch of money. We bartended. What do we do with all this money?
That's a terrible problem.
I know. Woe is us. As in our early 20s, we're like, okay, well, we've got all this money. What should we do with it?
Right.
And so we're like, let's just go blow it on travel. So we left and we came and lived with you for a little bit. After we graduated, we did, right?
I had a hostel, right? Like, not really, yes. But I mean, so many people have lived with me and stayed with me. I honestly forgot. But yeah, you guys you rented the room downstairs for, I don't know, a few months?
Down there sometimes, us and like Adam at some point was there.
Oh, yeah. Adam stayed there for a while. I had a lot of people, actually.
Right. I actually kind of forgot about that. So we stayed with you. We worked at The Zone in McDonough, Georgia. Saved up a little extra cash.
I forgot about that.
We were like, 22, 23 and had all this cash and had no bills or any responsibilities. And then we went to Greece and Turkey for 4 months. And so while we were traveling, we were like, oh man, we don't want to go live in the States. Like, it's not cool. Let's do something cooler. And so we started applying to jobs while we were traveling. And we took the first job that emailed us back. And we ended up in Taipei, Taiwan, teaching. And Ryan didn't even have a degree in education. His was in history and mine was. So I knew I wanted to teach. So we got jobs teaching at this private school, but it was like after school for like the Asian kids because they had to go to regular school and then go to extra school to like learn English and study and stuff. So we ended up working there and it was a game changer for us because we met some awesome people. We had a huge training group. So we met people from all over. And so immediately we just had this like giant expat community in Taipei. And, we're 23, 24, and we were making decent money. And Taipei is an amazing place to live and work and travel. Everything's in English. So you didn't have to learn Chinese, which was really nice because it was really hard. We tried for 2 minutes and we're like, not for us. But we loved it. So we made some really good friends there and we stayed for a while and we ended up leaving because Ryan says because of the rain, because I would have stayed and I would go back tomorrow because I love Taiwan so much.
Really?
I can't like, especially now having kids, thinking about going back there, they just have everything's so clean. Everybody's so organized. Like people line up and don't cut. They don't cut you off. You could just be looking around on the side of the street and I have zero directional sense. And people are like, are you lost? Do you need some help? Yes, actually, I do need some help. They will walk you to wherever you're going or put you in their car and take you. And you don't have to worry about like getting stolen or kidnapped or anything because, they're just like the nicest people, some of the nicest people on the planet. And
Right.
I loved it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long did y'all stay in Taipei?
So we were there for 4 years. And our last year, was our last year? Yeah, 2016. We went on a trip. We had Chinese New Year. So you get like 2 weeks off in February for Chinese New Year. Like pretty much the whole country gets that time off. So it's like the most expensive time to travel because everybody in Taiwan is like leaving or going back to their family or going somewhere. And so Ryan and I went to Myanmar on our 2-week trip. So this is our engagement story. Okay. It's really funny. I like to laugh at it now. At the time, I was not laughing. So we went to Myanmar, okay, and it's beautiful. And and at this point, Ryan and I had been dating for 6 years. And I'm kind of getting to this point, like before this trip, I was like, man, I'm going to talk to him about wanting to get married. Like, I'm going to do it. It's been a long time. Like, I feel like this conversation we should have, right? 6 years with someone, that's
Right.
a normal
Yeah.
thing to want to talk about. Sure. Okay.
Exactly.
I kept chickening out and I wouldn't bring it up. So we're on this trip. It's like beautiful and magical. It's kind of romantic. And, our money goes really far because everything's really cheap there. We're going to this one place that has these really big temples and you can they're like pyramid-y kind of, and you can walk up them. And so our plan was we were going to take hot air balloons and we were going to go around them at sunrise. But for some reason, it's something like our credit cards weren't working or we couldn't pay for it because we couldn't get the cash out. So we're like, we'll just go watch them from a temple, right? So we'll go climb up the temple at sunrise and we'll go watch these hot air balloons. On the way there, we had some street food and Ryan got really sick. He vomited like the whole bus ride there. It was like a 7-hour bus ride. It was really terrible. So we get there and he's feeling awful. And then I wasn't feeling great either. I started throwing up, but it wasn't until we got there. So I missed the bus transport. And so we're both feeling really gross. And I'm just kind of annoyed, not in a great mood. And he's like, okay, we're going to wake up really early tomorrow morning and we're going to go up to these temples at sunrise. And I'm like, okay, I really don't want to. I really don't feel good. And I'm just I'm just kind of irritable. Okay. And so we wake up and your brother, he hates waking up early, almost just refuses, even for work. You're like, I don't want to get up. Even with kids now, he doesn't like waking up. And not that I like it either, but so this particular morning, he is chipper. He is awake early and he's chipper. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Why? Why are we, no. And so I am dragging ass. I'm going slow. I'm gotta go to the bathroom. He's like, okay, I'll meet you downstairs for breakfast. I'll get your coffee ready. I'm like, who are you? What's happening? And so I'm getting ready, go downstairs. He's already eating. He's had his 3rd cup of coffee. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. He's like, all right, let's go. We're going to go up to the temples. We take these motorized scooters. So we go to these motorized scooters, right? We drive for 15 minutes. We get up to this temple and he's like, I'm going to go take some pictures. And I was like, okay, here I am, getting in a better mood. I thought we are going to have this romantic morning sunrise where we're going to sit and watch these balloons together. And he's running up the temple without me to go set up his camera for a picture. And I was like, okay, I'm just getting so annoyed. So we get up the temple, he's setting up his tripod, and I'm just pouting like a little girl. I'm just sitting there my boyfriend won't talk to me on this temple, being really childish.
That's hysterical.
He sets it up. He's like, okay, do you want to stand in it and we'll just take a quick video to send everybody back home? And I'm really being pissy. I'm being very immature. I'm like, fine, whatever. And so like we're standing, it's like very narrow. So you have to stand really close to each other on this like little ledge. So he sets his tripod up and then we're standing here, and behind us is all these other temples and then all these hot air balloons. It's beautiful. It's like gorgeous light. And I'm just being so cranky. And he's like, oh, hey guys, we're in this video. Hey, we love you. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. Has like this thing he says. And he like looks and turns to me. He's like, is there anything you want to say to everybody? I was like, yeah, hey, we miss you. We love you. He's like, that's it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay. He like turns around and like gets on one knee. And I was just, oh, I felt like the most royal butthead in the world. And I just like, I genuinely blacked out. I don't even remember what he said. I just remember thinking I was being such a jerk. And here he is like trying to be all sweet and set up this camera to get a video of proposing to me. And I'm being cranky and irritable. So,
oh my God.
So he proposed.
Did you cry?
I did, but I was so, I was in shock. So I didn't say anything. I looked really stupid. And the picture, thankfully, you can't tell because it's like a profile. So it's like really sweet. I'm like, oh, it's really cute. But really, I was just like, what is happening? I had no idea. It was the most surprised I've ever been in my entire life. I felt like such a silly person for, being irritable.
He did a good job though, right?
Well, it was funny because when I asked, we talked about it later, he said he had only like decided that he was going to do this like a couple weeks prior. And originally he wanted to do it on the hot air balloon, and he was going to like play one of our songs and then propose on the hot air balloon, but we couldn't do it because our money situation. And so he had to like replan like on a whim. And so that's where he replanned to do it, which still worked out. It was really beautiful.
That's amazing. You probably couldn't have got the whole picture set up if you were actually on the hot air balloon, right? So it may have worked out better for like the visual shot.
100%. It was way better this way because everything was in the background. It was way better. And then it was kind of nice because afterwards we could kind of like be by ourselves. In a hot air balloon, you probably would have been with 10 other people. It's like in close quarters, maybe not so romantic afterwards.
Yes.
So, yeah, it worked out. It was way better.
Oh, that's amazing. So you said yes.
So I said yes. And then afterwards I think we had planned this before. I don't remember, but we went to a like beach area on the coast. And so we stayed at what to us was like a really nice place, and it had a pool, and we were like all these cabanas on the water, and we get into our first cabana and the guy's like putting our luggage down, and you see something kind of moving in the corner, and we were like, what's that? And then like a rat jumps out of the cabinet. We're like, we'll take a new room, please. We're like, okay, we'll take you to the other honeymoon suite. So they moved us, but it was really nice. So we spent some time there and then went back to Taipei and finished out our contract. We got married the next year. So we were still in Taipei then. We got married the next year in Antigua, Guatemala, and then we left Taipei. So we got married in 2016 in Antigua, Guatemala, but we were like residing in Taipei at the time.
Okay. Yeah. Got you. So then where you got married was absolutely amazing. Is that something that still sticks out in your mind as like you couldn't have picked a better place?
I still can't. So because we went back recently, it was really like magical. Just take our kids back there and like, and not that they understand because they're 2 and less than a year, but going back because we passed so where we got married, for listeners, we got married in a hotel, but behind the hotel you could see were ruins. And then we ended up going just across the street into the ruins for our reception. And so there's a gate in front of the ruins because like you can't just go in it, you can see it. And so we walked past it, and the hotel had other weddings and events, and they had like the white drapes outside so you could see it like it was for our wedding, and it was really pretty. We went back there and had a drink at the bar on our anniversary. But it was really, I don't know, just kind of magical and really nice, like reminisce, like, oh, we got married there, we took pictures there, we remember doing this. So it was really special, and I could not have fathomed. I can't even find a prettier place in Atlanta like that's this pretty. So I think we nailed it on the wedding venue.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So you got married in Guatemala, and then there was this time afterwards where, you know, some people say gap year, some people say, you know, took off a year to travel, whatever. But y'all traveled for a full year after you got married, right?
Yeah, we called it our honeymoon. Our year-long honeymoon, yeah. You know, so, yeah, normally you take a week and go to the Bahamas or somewhere. We're a little bougie. We took off a whole year. Again, we were like, what, 20s, mid to late 20s, had no kids. We saved up a bunch of money in Taiwan. And if I'm being super honest, this is definitely something Ryan wanted to do more than I did. But at the time, I was like, this is so cool. I definitely want to do this. In the back of my head, I was like, I could probably do this for a couple months and be happy to go back to work. But
So there was a time during the trip where you were like, I can't wait to get back to a routine, or I can't wait to get back to work. Like, did that cross your mind?
yeah, when we were hiking, every time, because hiking is my not favorite thing to do.
Let me just insert a quick 2-second story by saying my favorite time that I've ever hiked with you was on an active volcano. It was Pacaya, Guatemala. It was years before you got married there. You and Ryan had just started dating, and we went on this trip. We were with a lot of friends, and we get to the top of Pacaya. And I turn around to look at you so we can, you know, share this moment where we gaze in each other's eyes of like this excitement where we got to the top of this active volcano and we can hear it like bubbling and all this stuff. And I turn around and you aren't there. And I'm like, where the heck is Katie? You were on the ground, complete, like flat on the ground. You had thrown up and then you had rolled over in it. Like, you were just like, I hate this.
That is how much I like hiking every time. Not my finest moment.
Oh my God.
And then I threw up I made the car on the way back from that trip stop. That van stopped so I could throw up again in the car or outside of the car because I had to vomit again. How good I am.
Oh my God. That was it wasn't fun for you, but how about this? It is a hysterical memory for me. But so this time that your gap year, your honeymoon trip that you went on, was there a particular time that kind of stood out as, yeah, I want to get back to a routine, but this moment right now, I'll never forget it?
So many of them. A lot of times I would miss home while we were traveling, like in transport. So we went from Colombia all the way down to Argentina via bus the entire time. That was the only mode of transportation that we took. We didn't fly. So it's very long. And so it took us a long time to get down there. And there was one bus ride in particular, and we had paid for the first class seat. So it was like 2 layers of the bus. So we were on the bottom level. And they had kind of like lazy boy chairs, like the leather, bigger ones. And they were supposed to have working TVs and working Wi-Fi and working AC. And it had none of those things. It just had the big chairs. and so it was not ideal. And there were riots or like protests or something happening on the highway. It was supposed to be like, I think an 8 or 10 hour bus ride, and it ended up being 20 for us because the people were blocking the roads with cars and tires and they wouldn't let anybody through. So there's just traffic, and they do it during the workday. So when like 5 o'clock hits, they go home and then they let people pass because they know that it's they're hurting local people as well. But we had to wait all day to get through this road. And I remember thinking we had nothing to do. We couldn't get any food. We had the snacks that we brought, but we didn't think we were going to be on the bus for that long. That I remember thinking like, I just want to be home in my bed or like somewhere comfortable. And so it was times like that were just like challenging or frustrating that I really miss the comforts of home or, hiking at the top when I was getting towards the top, and I get really cranky. I'm not joking. I get really cranky towards the top of mountains. Really cranky. Ryan knows that when we get to the top, just to kind of give me a minute and let me like cool off so I'm not like huffing and puffing and dying. And then we can kind of enjoy it together and take some pictures. In those times when I'm like either going uphill or something was just challenging and frustrating, I really missed home and our routine and like having something of comfort for myself.
Yeah, right. So after this amazing trip, what was next? Like, were y'all planning it the whole time? Like, were y'all thinking, hey, what's next for us?
Anybody that knows me, in my head, I'm always trying to plan. And anyone that knows Ryan knows he is never trying to plan. And so, you know, I'm so like playing it cool. Like I'm the cool traveler girl on a year off. And like, in my head, I'm like, okay, what are we doing next? Where are we going? Like, I need things. He's like, let's just get there and figure it out. I'm like, or we can book it in advance. Let's just look. So he's not planning anything. Meanwhile, I kind of was, but it worked out. So it ended up not being anything that I thought I was going to plan. We had met some friends who are actually from Atlanta, but lived in Taipei when we were working there. And they had left Taipei and moved to Morocco. So on our trip, we were like, okay, we'll get to Argentina and then are going to just fly to Morocco and go visit them. And before we did that, we had just been talking to them, and they worked at an American international school. And they're like, well, you guys should just apply. You know, we're hiring for next year. And Ryan didn't have his teaching license, which most international schools require. And so we just applied and we're like, you know, we'll see. But we need to start doing this anyways. So we applied and interviewed a couple times, and they ended up hiring us. And we were like, okay, well, we're actually already planning to go there because we're going to visit our friends. We'll just sign our contracts when we get there. They're like, that's great. Well, we can't wait to meet you or whatever. So we finish our South America portion of our trip and we fly over to Morocco. We get there. They ask us, they're like, well, you know, we actually just had some people quit. Would you guys want to sub for a month? You're already here visiting for a couple weeks. We had no plans after Morocco. We just kind of thought, well, we'll just make our way to Europe somehow and travel throughout Morocco a little bit. And so we're like, yeah, sure. Let's make a little money while we're on a year off. We had been running low. And so we ended up staying with our friends and working at the school for a month subbing. While we were doing that, another teacher left and Ryan ended up subbing for the PE teacher. And so he did such a good job. They were like, well, when you come back, do you want to be the PE teacher? And he was like, yeah, cool. And so he ended up getting hired. And then I had already had an elementary position. So it was kind of nice because we knew everybody there and like what to expect. And so we ended up staying in Morocco for a month and teaching and traveling like, you know, on the weekends and stuff for a month after South America. So that was a really weird twist, but ended up working out really well because it kind of solidified our positions teaching there for the next year.
You've touched a couple times on your friends that have lived different places. Do you find it hard to make friends when you're living abroad? Or do you find that it's a little easier because you already have this common bond of travel?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think it's harder to make friends in the States. I think it's easier to make friends abroad because, yeah, you have that base level of like, you're an expat, you left, like you've already got something in common. And so you kind of build on that. And usually 9 times out of 10, doesn't matter who it is, unless there's like a really big age gap. Now I'm in my 30s. I probably wouldn't be super close with someone in their early 20s, but not to say I couldn't. We just have different wants and perspectives on life. But people around the same age or same like kind of, you know, walks of life, it's just much easier. You're just already kind of connected and you bond over that. And so I've actually found it harder. I've made 0 new friends coming back to the States. And in my defense, I haven't tried a whole lot, but you know, even just going out, I find it harder to connect with people here than I do with people abroad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I can relate to that. And also on a smaller scale, a lot of times when I go hiking, I tend to make friends easy because you're already both on the trail. You both are there with this same goal in mind, you know, to get to the top of this mountain or into this trail or to see this waterfall or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You already have that bond. So it is kind of easier to build that relationship when you already know what you each have in common. Right?
Exactly. 100. It's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. I wish I liked hiking and then I maybe could make more friends.
That's hysterical. So at this point, you started living in Morocco, and the differences between Taiwan and Morocco. I know they are 2 completely different places. It's like comparing a tomato and a chocolate bar, I'm sure. But what are some of the differences that really stood out to you that you may or may not have had to get used to, right? Living in one place and then the next.
I think it was helpful that we took a year off in between living in Taiwan and living in Morocco, because living in Taipei is like polar opposite of living in Morocco, and in good ways and bad. But like I said, Taiwan is very structured, it's very organized, it's very clean, it's very neat. And Morocco is the Wild West. Nothing is clean or organized. Bureaucracy things are a nightmare. Everything's done on paper still. It was really a hard adjustment. So they speak French and Darija, which is the local dialect of Arabic. And so Ryan speaks a bit of Spanish. I can understand a little bit of Spanish, but we had no background of language. There's some overlap with French, but not enough for us to really catch it early on. So at first we were, it was really exciting and it was really cool. And traveling in Morocco is awesome. The people there are also super friendly and helpful, but also a lot more outspoken and verbal and sometimes aggressive, sometimes not, but just in general, they have a lot more passion behind their voice than Taiwanese people do. It was a bit of it wasn't a hard transition because we were excited to be there and we were happy, and we didn't love our first apartment. So once we moved and got into a more comfortable space, we liked it, but we enjoyed, that's part of why we like to live abroad. We enjoy the challenge of going to get produce at the produce market, and you don't know how to pay and you don't know how much money they're asking for. You're like, but yeah, it was really different. Like I said, in good ways and bad. But so we basically traded like tropical rain for the desert. And that was probably our favorite part. The weather there was, it's just all year round pretty much. It's gorgeous. And we absolutely love that.
I remember whenever I visited you, there was a huge kite surfing community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there where you were at outside of Casablanca, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's like one of the meccas for windsurfing, isn't it?
Windsurfing and actually surfing, just normal surfing, because it's so windy there, and there's really good, consistent waves where we were. And so there was a huge surfing community as well, a lot of surf schools, and then some of our friends and people that we met ran the surf schools and shops and stuff like that. So it was a big community, like a water community out there. And even farther south, they had some really big surf competitions because they had also some really good waves down there as well. There was actually a documentary about a pro surfer who went to Morocco to surf some really huge waves, and he was sponsored by Red Bull or something. And he got really hurt, by no surprise, had to leave because the medical assistance that he needed was not offered in Morocco. And so he had to be transported somewhere else. But anyways, it's a really, really good spot for surfing. Yeah.
One of the surfers left Morocco because he couldn't find the medical service that he needed there. So that got my brain thinking about you in Morocco, how you birthed out two beautiful daughters in their hospitals, right? And so I know that was an experience in itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So my first birthing experience, and I can't compare this to the States, so I'm assuming it's different, but I can't be the one to make those comparisons. So I gave birth to Luna, our first daughter, in May of 2020. So in Morocco, we went to, that was when COVID was starting, obviously, and March of 2020 is when the entire country went on lockdown. Not allowed to leave your house. Women were not allowed to leave their house. Men were given a paper to be able to leave to go to the grocery store, but only the man of the house could have that paper. And the police officers went around and wrote these by hand and passed them out, knocked on doors and gave you your paper. You had to sign it, and women weren't allowed to have one. I ended up getting one because I'm an expat, and our school had it in with the police officers in our area. And so we were allowed to have them. I had to also have a note. There was blockades in all the roads. So you couldn't drive anywhere because the police would stop you. And so I had a medical note from my doctor saying okay, she's allowed to go to the hospital. So my water broke on May 4th at I think 8 or 10 p.m. at night. And I was like, I had just taken a bath and I got out of the bath. And I remember it happening. And I was like, Ryan, I don't know if I'm peeing myself or if my water just broke, but there's a mess on the floor. Or a little of both. And so I called my doctor and she's like, well, you should just go just to make sure, because I wasn't having contractions or anything. We get everything ready. I had my bag packed. We get in the car and we had, I think a dozen times we had to stop on the way to the hospital for the police checkpoints.
Oh my
And they're like, what are you
God.
doing? You can't be driving. You couldn't drive after like 5 o'clock anyways. And so we were getting doubly stopped because I'm a woman and because it was past curfew. So we had to show them the note, and I'm like in the car, I'm like, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna have a baby, because they don't speak English and I don't speak French, and so we're like they're like, oh, okay, go 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 go, and so we get to the hospital and I'm allowed in and Ryan is not allowed in. I'm like, okay, well maybe he can come later. So my doctor, the way that hospitals work is you have like specific doctors that have their own offices, but none of them work in the hospital full time. So your doctor will come from their office or their house and meet you at the hospital if you need them. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there are not full-time gynecologists at this hospital, which is ridiculous because it's a birthing hospital. So I get there and there's nurses. Okay. But there's no doctors there. And so I go into the room and it's funny because I had the same nurse with me for both my kids. And I think she remembered me the second time. But I get in and we had a nurse friend that worked at our school, and she was with Ryan to help translate and stuff. And so they couldn't come in. So they stayed outside, and my birthing room had a small window with bars on it. And so they basically sat outside the whole time and could hear me the entire time, but they weren't allowed in. So I had to labor and deliver by myself. And this was also during Ramadan. And anybody that doesn't know, this is the holy month in Morocco. So they fast all day. And when the sun goes down, that's when they eat. And so I had gotten to the hospital at their dinner time. And so I was not let's say, main priority. I wasn't checked on frequently because they hadn't eaten all day. And so they are just pumped. I mean, they're hungry, obviously.
They're
So they're
hangry.
eating. And they're hangry and they're talking and they're enjoying each other's company and all the food that they made and prepared and brought, obviously, fine. I, meanwhile, haven't had an epidural yet and in excruciating pain in an almost pitch black room by myself without my husband, and no one is with me. And so I'm just laying on the bed, just gripping it, oh my God, when is this going to be over? And finally, the anesthesiologist comes in and they're like, do you want an epidural? And he spoke English. I was, give it to me right now. Give it all to me. And so he gave it to me. And after that, I just remember trying to talk to the nurses and just hanging out. And I was on cloud nine. It was amazing. But I did have to give birth by myself. And the rooms are very bare. There's nothing in them but a bed. It doesn't look like there's any sort of emergency equipment that I noticed. I'm not a doctor, but I don't know what happens in cases of emergencies because there's really nothing in the room. So I was thankful that I had a very normal pregnancy and nothing was wrong, no extra bleeding or complications. So I got really lucky, but it was a funny experience now, not so funny at the time. So, okay, so I give birth, right? My doctor's in there. She speaks English. She's wonderful. And she leaves for a second and I didn't really notice. And Ryan had gone, I guess, into the lobby. They let him go in. There was a vending machine to get some water. And so he was getting some water and the doctor was like, hey, come here for a second. And he was like, okay. He thought that he was just going to come because he heard me pushing. So he thought he was going to come in and get to sit with me while I was pushing for a second. And he comes in and I had Luna on my chest and in my arms, and he didn't know that she had been born. And we both, I saw him, I didn't know he was coming in. He came in, he didn't know that Luna had been born. And we both just start bawling, crying. So it was really sweet afterwards. And it ended up working out. And I would do it 100% again because of COVID. Ryan didn't have to go into work. We were teaching online. So we ended up getting 5 months at home together with Luna because we weren't going into the school. And so we could work from home with her and be together. So it actually worked out really well. It was really, really special.
That's oh man, that's I've actually never heard that entire story in its entirety.
Really?
So I love that. Yeah, I love that. So let me ask you this. Was there a moment in your hospital room that you felt really lonely?
the entire time. It's weird because I don't know, the pain part, you kind of black it out. It goes by. But there was okay, so when when you're in labor, they strap the baby monitor thing to you so you can hear the baby's heartbeat. And so all I could hear really is like I'm in pain and I can just hear this beeping. I go in and out of, I don't know, almost like consciousness. And I just remember like questioning my life choices, like, why are we here? I kind of wished at one point I wasn't in Morocco and I was back in the States, because I was like, they don't care. They're not even paying attention to COVID. Ryan could be with me. I do remember being a little bit frustrated during that because I was all by myself and all I wanted. Nobody can do anything for you during that time. I mean, I say that the pain doesn't go away regardless of who's with you, but it's nice to like have the comfort of the person you love next to you instead of just like a cold bed and a metal rail. So it was really lonely. And then the second time when we had our second Sophie, when Ryan was with me, it was just, you just feel, I mean, it's hard to be happy when you've got like the most intense pain of your life, but you feel comforted when somebody is there, like rubbing your back and like scratching your head and just like there supporting you. So it was really hard doing it by myself, but I do consider myself a superhuman now that I did it by myself, and pushing a human out of your body automatically makes you a superhero. So
as you should, right? Yeah, women are so awesome. I love women.
We are.
They're amazing. Yeah, we really do. And that's awesome. And I love that story. And so you had your daughters. And so without sounding like too emotional whenever I ask you this, because this is something that I thought about while you were there. And it kind of came back into my mind whenever I was planning to ask you questions. So can you tell me was it hard for you to start a family so far away from your family?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. Yes and no. Yes, because I mean, obviously you and my sister and our sisters are some of my best friends. And so, I mean, I talked to Emily, my sister, like literally almost every day while I was abroad, all the time. And so it was really hard not having that closeness, because you have just created this thing, this person, this little human that you cannot imagine loving anymore, and you want to share them and you can't, and that's really hard. And it's really nice that like you can do video chatting and stuff now, so that helps, but it is really hard. You do feel like that weird disconnect. This is someone else I really love and I want you to get to know them, but you kind of can't. But at the same time, living abroad for us is a really important part of our life, and we want our kids to have that too. We want them to learn another language and see other cultures, kind of things that you don't get as much of here. Not to say that you can't, because there are a lot of obviously cultures here and languages here, but it's different. It's not the same sort of experience that you get living here versus abroad. So to us, our kids living and traveling abroad is really important too. So that was a huge plus, but it was nice. Eventually we had some family come visit us, but yeah, being back here has been really nice, because like now our kids can put names to faces and not names to pictures, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I read this quote the other day and it reminded me of you, and I wanted to see if you could relate to it. And Leah Hunt, she says, traveling in the company of those we love is home in motion. Is that something that kind of hits home whenever you hear that?
Yeah, you're going to make me cry. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
Like we don't have a home in the traditional sense. We don't own anything. We don't have all of our stuff in one place. Like our house in Morocco kind of felt like the biggest home we've had in a while, in the last like decade. And now we're back in Georgia and we have a home, but it's not ours. We're sharing it. So it doesn't matter though, because I am happy if we're running around playgrounds in Spain with my kids, or we're sitting in front of where we got married in Guatemala, or we're on a tuk-tuk, right? You know what I mean? Like, and this might be hard to relate to, but it doesn't matter. I am my happiest when we're not at home, honestly. When we're traveling, when I'm with my family and my kids and like watching them experience that. And like Ryan and I get to watch them running around 1,000-year-old convent that's being just that was crumbled. Like, it's really cool. It's just, it pulls at your heartstrings a lot because that's what we want them to experience. And that being together doesn't change where we live, or it does, you know what I mean? Like, we are family. So where we are, I am happy. And honestly, I'm happiest when we're not at home. Usually it's in an Airbnb in another country when I'm the happiest with my family. And we're a little bit grumpy when we're here in Georgia for long periods of time.
Y'all need to,
So,
y'all
yeah.
just need to get out, be free, roam
We
around.
do. We need that adventure. We really do. And even our kids, they're happier when they're outside and they're somewhere new too. They just love exploring. Like, Luna tries to climb on everything. And here you drive everywhere, you go into a building, you come out, you drive back home. Like, there's no adventure. And obviously you can go out. There's things to do here, yes, but it's not the same. So it is enjoyable for us. We're in our element when we are not at home, but we are together. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's great that you have that experience. And you know what? I like to point out to any of our listeners that because that's your experience, it doesn't mean it has to be everybody's experience as well. Yeah. With my situation, raising a daughter and co-parenting with her father, I'm not saying, there weren't times I was like, oh, I wish I could take this job abroad or things like that. But at the same time, to see her around my family, around her family, there was something beautiful about that as well. So I think that the fact that that y'all are, your family has this love that you just kind of work best when you're traveling. That's awesome. And some people might own a house in the country and raise chickens and do stuff every day together as a family outside that way. And they may love that as well, right? So there's no better way. It's just the fact that y'all have found your way that you guys work, right?
I feel, I don't know, I kind of feel inspired even just seeing anybody that's happy in their element, regardless of where they are. That's it. That's what it's about, right? Like, if you're happy in your house and you live, it doesn't matter where, like, that's amazing. But because happiness is not something that everybody has or even can get. And so if you've got that, that's really it. Be anywhere you want to be, but be happy. And because that's not always easy for everybody. So, I mean, we're not happy all the time either. I'm not trying to like play this facade that we're like,
right.
We're not like it, we go through ups and downs just like everybody else. But I do think that if you can find the pockets of happiness in your life with your family, like, what it's about, regardless of where it is. Absolutely.
Right. Yes. Okay. So now, what have you found to be the most difficult part about traveling the world with children? Is there a time yet where you're just like, oh my God, like, this is not as easy as it used to be? Like, do you have those moments?
Oh my God, all the time. So everything is slow, turtle slow. And I like to think that I am pretty patient with my kids. I mean, I have a background in early childhood, so like I do relate to like the developmental stages, but I lose it sometimes. So besides being slow, our youngest until this weekend hasn't been sleep trained. So I haven't really slept in a year. So coupled with me not sleeping for a year and her screaming about everything, it's hard. Yeah. So like airplane rides with Sophie, our youngest, she was like 9 months when we went to Guatemala, 8. She just screams the whole time. She hates it. And understandably, it's probably uncomfortable, but she refuses to take a pacifier, won't take a bottle, doesn't like to sleep. So at some point it's on her. So she's hard. So it gets frustrating. Like, that all the single people on that flight, anyone without kids, is just make that baby stop crying. And you're trying, but like, also you're on a public plane. It's not like your private jet that I'm intruding upon. So it's like that weird balance of trying to be respectful, but at the same time, like, there's only so much you can do. So, but like, it gets to you. It's frustrating. So that part's hard. Working around naps is hard. Like, okay, she's got to sleep, but she won't sleep here. She won't go there. So you can do a lot less than you think you can do. So I think if you're like really aware about that, it's a good thing to go in. Cause when you're like, oh, I didn't get to do that, I can't go see here, I can't go out after 8 o'clock, your expectations will really help your attitude. So if you know that you have to be in by 7 every night, but go get whatever you want before that and bring it back, it just makes things easier. So being very slow, not getting to do everything you want to do is hard because Ryan wanted to hike and he tried, but it was not the kid's fault, surprisingly. It was the company, but you just don't have that freedom that you normally have. So just kind of understanding that and being on their time is hard, but I mean, you have to do that. So most of the days we would just go outside and let Luna literally chase pigeons around. That's what we did during the day. We would chase pigeons. And then we would drag her on adventures and like, oh, you can climb this or you can climb that. And thankfully she's really great. So she was happy anywhere. She would find a rock and pretend it was Simba and we were in the Lion King. So it was great. But Sophie didn't want to be held. So we had to find somewhere we could put her down and then like feed her. And Luna has really bad food allergies. So then having to navigate that, like we can only eat at certain places that have this or don't have that. So that was also a really huge challenge as well. But once you kind of figure it out, it gets a little bit easier. After the first couple of days, you like, okay, we can go here, we can't go here. This is what the days are going to kind of look like. It does take a little bit to kind of work out those kinks. And then I think just being okay with not exploring as much. So doing things over and over again sometimes happens. Yeah, but it's all about your expectations and your attitude. Like, and that's easier said than done, right? Put yourself in a good mood. Doesn't always work. But if you can, and you don't mind going out and collecting rocks in a bucket and pretending that it's stone soup, then you're going to have a great time.
So you're learning how to travel with children, and it's just, it's something you learn as you go. And do you ever find, so as you've started taking your kids all over the world and experiencing them, or exposing them to new things, do you ever find yourself defending the way you live from people who can't understand it?
Less so now but yes, I think honestly it happened more when we didn't have kids. Yeah, people were like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just come back here? And it's kind of started that way. And then I think having to defend ourselves so much, then people just stopped asking. Like we would come home from being abroad for a short trip and no one would ask us what we're doing, what our life is like, what experiences we've had. And I think to their defense, it's just because it's hard to relate to, like you're going to listen to me tell a story about something that you have no experiences with. And sometimes that can get boring and I get that. Less so now, just because people don't ask us about it, to be honest. But it is hard because why don't you send your kids to public school? Why don't you stay here? Why don't you want them to live in America and, be near your family? And it's not that we don't, but we value the world and traveling and seeing other cultures and experiencing them firsthand and not just reading about them and seeing pictures. But it is hard to understand that if you haven't traveled a lot or don't also value that. So yeah, we do, but only when people ask.
Right. So it is hard to relate to some people, but yeah. If I'm being honest, that's one of the reasons that this podcast even came into fruition in my mind, because I was talking to my boyfriend Trey a couple months ago about it. And I was like, it's actually a lonely feeling sometimes to have these stories that you just want to tell. And when you tell it, you're able to relive it. You're able to just have those little moments of the same feeling you had when you were there. And there's something beautiful about that. And I was like, I know a lot of travelers, and I know that even though, I'm splitting it up and I'm going to have a different traveler on each week, just to have an hour to really express like, hey, this is what I did. This is how amazing it was. I just feel like it's an outlet that's needed with a lot of travelers, because again, like you said, you're not always around people who can share in that experience of your story. So this is kind of a platform where like you can talk to people who are interested in travel or who have traveled or who want to travel. So this is interesting, right? Yeah. So that to have that audience is kind of nice.
I haven't told a travel story in so long.
Oh, that brought a little tear to my eye. Like, oh, God, I can relate. Oh, yes. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me go straight into this. I hope I don't mess up this girl's name. I looked it up online. I could not figure out, but I think Haral Nagda. I think that's how to pronounce it. I apologize if I pronounced it incorrectly. So she says, don't do it for applause. Do it because it ignites a fire within you. My question to you is, where we live in a culture that has so many of us looking to like, how many likes can we get? Let me get that applause because of what I did. Do you ever find yourself looking for the applause?
Yeah, I would be lying 100% if I said I wasn't. Yeah. Well, you know, and that's just something that's come about with social media because when we started traveling, that wasn't a thing. It was just you just tell your stories and you've got some pictures on your digital camera, but you don't really have a good way of sharing them or the internet to share them. So in my defense, not always, but yes, now yes, because I, I I feel proud, you know, and I do feel like bragging sometimes. Like I like, yeah, I think this is, I don't know, I'm going to toot my own horn, but sometimes I think I take good pictures too. And I feel proud of A, the pictures and B, the experience that I'm having. And I do kind of want to share it. And other people have commented or messaged me during our travels and my pictures saying like, we love following your adventures. Like, please continue posting. And so like, I kind of thrive off that. Like, oh, well, people like it. So I'm going to keep doing it. And whether they do or don't, it's really more for me, but I do. Yeah, I do like posting.
So I was just talking, my last interview was with a friend of mine named Dr. Triplett. We were co-teachers together in Atlanta. And she said something that really stood out to me. And she said, I don't know when people started telling us that we couldn't talk about ourselves. She was like, but why? Like, you know, I'm here. I should be proud. I've put in the work. I've done this. Why should I like shy away from what I've done? Like I should be proud of what I've done. And I was like, that's a really good point. So she talked a lot about self-love, and it just really kind of opened my eyes because there is something also beautiful about humility, you know, and people that are humble and live their life as such. But at the same time, I don't think we should look down on people who are proud of themselves, who are proud of what they've done.
I love that. you know, that's a perspective I've not thought of. And I have always kind of just have felt a little bit guilty when I do it because I'm like, you know, like, I don't know. But you're right. Like, why should I be ashamed that I'm traveling or that I think I took a good picture or that I want to share this experience with people that follow me? But I love that. I like her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to listen to the whole thing. She's a hoot. She just has a love for life, and that's fun to listen to. So you have given me the perfect transition, as we would say in the teaching world, into my last question for you. So life has gone full circle. You know, you're all the way. You started in the U.S. You're right now. You have recently come back to the U.S. What have you and your husband started doing here that's getting you excited? What's your next adventure here?
Okay. So anybody that knows Ryan knows he's been taking pictures for decades, maybe 2 decades, if not longer. And so we have recently legally started a photography business.
Woo! Woo, woo, woo! Yes.
So my husband, Ryan, he is an amazing photographer. And when most people have a talent, a lot of times they're a little bit insecure or shy about it. And I think he feels proud of a lot of his stuff, but he's also kind of been nervous to share it with the world. And so recently we've just kind of gotten on board to just give it a go. We're just going to see if it works, see if people like his style. So he's the cameraman. He does all the amazing shoots. I'm more of your like behind the scenes, scheduling, organizing, communicating kind of gal. So we're doing it together, and we're hoping that, you know, eventually it kind of takes off enough for us to continue doing it. And we can't lose money off of it. So that's great. But we would like to make a career out of it for at least one of us. So we're really hoping that happens.
I am rooting for you like all the way. And I know there's a lot of people rooting for you. Tell us the name and where can we find you?
Okay, our name is Atlas and Ink Photography. And so the meaning behind it is Atlas is our first daughter's middle name after the mountain range in Morocco, because she was born in Morocco. And Ink is after, we used to call Sophie like our little octopus because she's just always, you can't do anything. You can't change her diaper or put her clothes on because she's just moving every part of her body. And so we just always joked that she was a little octopus. And so we thought it would be, I don't know why, we just thought those names together were cool. And so we just put Atlas and Ink together. And so it's really after our daughters. But yeah, so that's where we came up with it. And we think it sounds cool, really.
No, it does. It sounds great. And I think this is going to be a great venture for you guys. So anybody who's listening that's looking for maternity pictures, which you posted the other day that were beautiful, wedding pictures, engagement picture, I mean, even just family, right? Like
family events. I mean, honestly, we're open to, if Ryan thinks that he can get creative with it and have a good turnout, we'll do it.
Right. Okay. Yay. Okay. So that's going to be awesome. And I'm rooting for you. And so is all the rest of your friends and family. So last thing we're going to do, because this is my new little niche that I have decided to do because I can, I'm going to do a little would you rather to end us up so that I can laugh at you and people can get to know you better. Okay. Here we go. Number 1, aisle or window seat?
I'm going to say aisle because I hate being that person to ask to get up to go to the bathroom, and I overdrink and I have to go to the bathroom a lot.
Me too. It stresses me out to think about waking the person up to get past them.
I will hold my pee to an uncomfortable point to not ask someone to get up that's sleeping.
Me too. I feel like there's something wrong with us. So number 2, would you rather have forgotten your baby wipes or your snacks on a 3-hour flight?
How my current kids?
Current, like tomorrow. You fly somewhere tomorrow.
I'm going to say snacks because my kids get hangry. I would rather let Sophie sit in her own poop for 3 hours than scream because she's hungry. Luna might not even notice she peed her pants if she has snacks, so it would be fine.
So, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, all right. I like your answer. I like your logic. Yeah. Okay, number 3. You and I, we are both coffee fans. So if you are traveling throughout Asia, would you rather stop for an instant Nescafe coffee that they just pour right into the hot water, or tea?
Tea all the way. Because in Asia, they know how to make that tea and you're going to get the best tea of your life. It's not that like Lipton, put it in your hot water and it's going to be amazing. They've probably triple distilled it and poured it into 7 different pots and added some sort of floral arrangement to it, even on the go. So
right. And a little magic, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, good. Number 4. Would you rather, this is just for you, would you rather go shark cage diving? And I know you don't dive very deep, so you know what I mean. Like in the cage, you're kind of on the surface. You can have a snorkel on. I don't care. So shark cage, great white shark cage with your snorkel on, or hike a volcano for 8 hours with a 20-pound pack.
I mean, you already know the answer to this. I would rather get in the water without a cage near sharks than do that. I can swim way faster than I can hike. 20 pounds? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Even in my strongest day, I could only carry water. Right? I would carry everything.
Oh my God, that makes me laugh. Okay, so shark cage, with or without the cage. Okay, that's
with or without. It's optional.
Okay, I got 2 more. Number 5, bungee or skydive?
I've actually never bungee jumped. So, but I think I'm going to still say skydive because bungee jumping still seems super sketchy to me. I don't know why. Skydiving is fun, but I don't know if I ever told you this. I've only been skydiving once. When I went skydiving, we, you're tandem, so you have somebody behind you, right? And you have to like check all your equipment first, and then you jump out of the plane. I don't know what happened, but the guy behind me, the strap that was supposed to go around your chest ended up going around my neck. So and I didn't say anything because I could breathe. I wasn't like choking, but it was just like the whole way down rubbing my neck. So I'm just like pulling at it the whole way down. And we get to the bottom and the guy's like, you okay? Something happened to your neck? I was like, yeah, the strap just, cut off. He was like, oh, sorry. I was like, yeah, it's fine.
That's a little terrifying. Oh man. Well, yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you didn't die. That's a plus.
Yeah, me too.
All right, last question. I'll give you 10 grand. All right. Well, I don't have it, but if I had it, I'd give you 10 grand. I'll give you 10 grand, but you can only spend it on one continent. And this is for traveling. I'm not talking about for diapers. I'm talking about a trip, right? So if I gave you 10 grand to go travel, but you could only spend it on one continent, what continent are you going to spend it on?
Is that including airfare?
Mm-mm.
I get 10 grand after I get there.
Yep.
I'm going to Asia. No questions, because the street food is the cheapest and the best food I've ever had. And you can stay at like super fancy hotels for next to nothing. And you can do that in other places too.
Where would you fly into first?
Maybe Bangkok and because Southeast Asia is going to be way cheaper, but eventually make my way over to Japan because I want to eat my face in sushi. And then I'll end in Taipei because I could definitely do all that for 10 grand. In Bangkok, you can get a 5-star hotel for $30 a night. So that it probably includes a foot massage.
I know you and I have both been to the little Japanese restaurants where they have that rotating sushi bar and it just the conveyor board and it just comes by you and you just pick off what you want to get and then they count your plates and they're like there you go, here's your ticket, that was $10. That's so much fun. Well, this has been amazing. You have a lifetime worth of stories to tell. I mean, I know that you could talk for another 4 hours on your stories and your experiences. It's just an overall good feeling to be able to sit back and look back at your life, even though you're young, just to be able to look back and say, hey man, I've done some cool shit, right? Isn't that fun?
Yeah. I don't normally think about it. So yeah, like now that I'm in Georgia, I haven't thought about it much, but like kind of talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
You're like, maybe I am cool.
Maybe I'm a little cool. Just a little bit. Probably not a lot, but
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
Well,
this has helped.
Okay, good. Do you feel cooler now that you've been able to talk about it and remember that, like, oh man, I've done a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I kind of forgot what happened before I had kids because that happens. So I forgot that I was a really cool, experienced person before I had children. So that's fun. Other people can relate, maybe.
I'm glad you came. You relived it with me. This was a lot of fun because some of those stories I had never heard, and that was a blast. And I am sure that some of our listeners are like, this girl is crazy, and I can't wait to hear more of her stories.
It's so fun. I know. I can't wait. I feel like I'm going to become famous soon, so hopefully the paparazzi won't follow me around when I leave tomorrow.
Well, thank you so much for being on here with me. This has been a blast. You're the best.
Thanks for having me. Love you.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
We remind you that this is a non-smoking flight. Smoking is prohibited on the entire aircraft, including the lavatories. Tampering with, disabling, or destroying the lavatory smoke detectors is prohibited by law. If you have any questions about our flight today, please don't hesitate to ask one of our flight attendants.